The red warning lights flashed across the massive council chamber as Admiral Keithvar slammed his scaled fist against the metal table. His yellow eyes burned with anger as he looked at the other members of the Galactic Council. The reptilian, Saurid leader had called this emergency meeting for one reason. Humans were everywhere and nobody knew why. They watch us fight and do nothing, Admiral Keithvar hissed through his sharp teeth. In 17 different star systems we find these. Humans. Always alone, always watching, never helping anyone. The other council members shifted in their seats. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few were made of living crystal. They all came from different worlds, but they shared one common fear. What were the humans planning? Captain Jake Morrison sat in his small observation post at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Through his ship's powerful cameras, he watched 3 alien fleets tear each other apart in the darkness of space. The crystalline hive moved like a swarm of angry insects, their ships glowing with blue light. The Nexus Collective's black metal vessels fired red laser beams that cut through armor like hot knives through butter. The Verdant Alliance's green bioships twisted and moved like living snakes. Jake took notes on his computer as he watched. He recorded how the crystalline ships worked together, how the Nexus machines calculated their attacks, how the Verdant ships healed themselves after taking damage. Explosions lit up the void as ships died and crews were blown into space. Jake watched it all with calm eyes. His communication device buzzed. "Morrison, this is Earth Command. Status report." Jake picked up the device without taking his eyes off the battle. Day 43 of the conflict. The crystalline hive lost 12 ships today. The Nexus Collective is down to 60% power on their main battle group. The Verdant Alliance is running low on biomaterials for ship repair. Any change in tactics? The crystalline ships are starting to use their sonic weapons more often. They figured out it disrupts Nexus targeting systems. The Verdant Alliance is trying to capture damaged Nexus vessels instead of destroying them. Keep watching. Send full reports every 6 hours. The communication ended. Jake went back to his notes. Another crystalline ship exploded in a ball of blue fire. He wrote down the time, the cause, and how the other ships reacted. He had been doing this for months. 300 light-years away, Lieutenant Lisa Grant watched a different war from her hidden station. The insectoid swarm had been fighting the energy-based Luminar for 6 months. The swarm moved in perfect formation, their black bug-like ships covering the sky like a dark cloud. The Luminar fought back with pure light, their attacks turning swarm vessels into glowing metal before they melted away. Lisa's station was hidden behind a dead moon, but she could see everything through her advanced sensors. Cities burned on the planet below. Millions of aliens were dying while she sat safe in her metal box writing reports. Her hands shook as she typed her daily observations. The swarm had learned to predict Luminar attack patterns. They sacrificed their smaller ships to get their big vessels close enough to do real damage. The Luminar were getting desperate. They were using more power in each attack, which meant they would burn out their energy cores faster. Lisa wanted to help. She wanted to warn the Luminar about the swarm's new tactics. She wanted to tell the swarm that the Luminar were planning to overload their sun to destroy everything in the system. But her orders were clear. Watch and record. Do not interfere. Her communication device rang. "Grant, this is Earth Command. Daily report. The swarm will win this battle in 4 days," Lisa said. "The Luminar are planning something big. I think they're going to try to blow up their star." "Understood. Keep monitoring. Do not take any action." The call ended. Lisa looked at the planet below. Another city was burning. She closed her eyes and kept typing her report. Dr. Pete Collins floated in his research station near the Vega system, studying the strangest war he had ever seen. The metallic hierarchs were fighting the plant like rootkin, but neither side seemed to understand how the other one worked. The metal aliens used fear and intimidation, attacking with loud noises and bright lights. The plant aliens coordinated through underground root networks that the metal aliens could not detect. Pete had been watching for 8 weeks. He had figured out both species' military strategies, their communication methods, and their weak points. The metallic hierarchs were afraid of anything that could corrode their metal bodies. The rootkin could not fight effectively if their underground networks were cut, but Pete was not here to help either side win. He was here to learn. His computers were full of data about both species, how they moved, how they thought, how they fought. Every detail was recorded and sent back to Earth. A new ship appeared on his sensors. It was not from either warring faction. The vessel was long and white, with strange energy readings. Pete had never seen anything like it. He pointed his cameras at the new arrival and started recording. The white ship moved between the two fleets. Both sides stopped fighting and turned their weapons toward the newcomer. Pete watched as the mystery ship sent out some kind of signal. Suddenly, every weapon in both fleets shut down. The metallic hierarchs and rootkin could not fire a single shot. A voice came from the white ship, speaking in perfect translations to both fleets. This conflict is based on misunderstanding. You fear each other because you do not know each other. We offer mediation. Pete recorded everything. The white ship belonged to a species called the Mediators. Within 6 hours, they had helped the two sides reach a peace agreement. The metallic hierarchs would get mining rights to dead asteroids. The rootkin would get protection for their colony worlds. As Pete sent his report to Earth, he wondered if his human commanders knew about the Mediators. Did Earth have contact with species that could stop wars with the flip of a switch? Back on Earth, Amy Bell sat in a room full of computers, reading reports from human observers across the galaxy. Jake's battle data from Kepler 442, Lisa's war, analysis from the Luminar conflict, Pete's first contact report about the Mediators, hundreds of other reports from hundreds of other observers. Amy was starting to see patterns. The galaxy was full of species that fought because they did not understand each other. Some were aggressive by nature, others were defensive. Many were just scared. But all of them had weaknesses, and all of them had strengths. She printed out a summary report and walked to the office next door. General Roy Martin looked up from his desk as she entered. "What do you have for me, Amy?" "The data is getting clearer," she said, handing him the report. "Every species we're watching has predictable behavior patterns, military tactics, communication methods, technological limitations. We're building a complete picture of galactic military capabilities." General Martin read through the summary. "And our observers are maintaining their cover?" "Yes, sir. As far as the other species know, we're just curious humans who like to watch but never get involved." "Good. Keep it that way. We're not ready to reveal our true purpose yet." Amy nodded and returned to her computers. She had work to do. Somewhere in the galaxy, human observers were watching, learning, and preparing for something that no other species could imagine. President Carol Davis stood in front of the massive hologram projector in the Earth Command Center. The device hummed as it connected her to the Galactic Council chamber, thousands of light years away. She could see the angry faces of alien leaders, staring back at her through the blue light. Admiral Kethvar leaned forward, his reptilian features twisted with suspicion. "President Davis, we demand answers. Your people are in our space watching our conflicts. What are you planning?" Carol smiled calmly. She wore a simple blue suit and spoke in an even voice. "Admiral, we are simply learning about our new neighbors. It would be wrong for us to interfere in disputes we do not understand." "Learning for what purpose?" demanded Counselor Zixandra, her tentacles writhing with agitation. "You observe our wars but offer no help to anyone. This behavior is suspicious." "We prefer to understand before we act," Carol replied. "Each of your species has faced conflicts for reasons we are still studying. It seems premature to choose sides in family disputes." The alien leaders exchanged glances. Some looked confused, others appeared angry. They had expected threats or demands from the humans. Instead, they received polite words about learning and understanding. Admiral Kethvar slammed his clawed hand on the table. "We do not believe you. No species observes others without planning conquest or alliance. What is your real goal?" Carol's expression never changed. "Our goal is knowledge, Admiral. We believe that understanding leads to better decisions than ignorance." The hologram flickered and went dark. The aliens had ended the conversation. Carol turned to General Roy Martin, who stood behind her with a thick folder of reports. "Do they suspect the truth?" Carol asked. "Not yet," the general replied. "They think we might be planning to invade, but they cannot imagine what we are really doing." "Good. We need more time." Commander Rick Stone crouched behind a rocky ridge on the barren moon of Altair 7. Below him stretched the siege lines of the Depth Lords, their blue-skinned warriors surrounding the mountain fortress of the Stone clans. The aquatic aliens had maintained their blockade for 8 months, slowly starving the rock-dwelling defenders. Rick's team of 6 observers had perfect positions to break the siege. A few well-placed charges could collapse the Depth Lord's supply tunnels. A coordinated attack on their water processing stations would force them to retreat within days. Rick knew exactly where to strike because he had been watching both sides for months, but his orders were clear: observe and record. Do not interfere. Through his binoculars, Rick watched Depth Lord engineers working on a new siege machine. The device would drill through solid rock and flood the Stone Clan tunnels with pressurized water. It would be ready in 3 days. The Stone clans would drown in their own fortress. Rick spoke into his communication device. "Stone base to Earth Command. The Depth Lords will breach the main fortress in 72 hours. Estimated casualties are 90,000 Stone Clan civilians." "Understood, Commander. Continue monitoring. Do not take action." Rick lowered the device and returned to his observations. He made detailed notes about the siege machine's design, the Depth Lord's tunnel network, and the Stone Clan's defensive positions. Every detail went into his reports: the technical specifications of Depth Lord drilling equipment, the psychological profile of Stone Clan leaders, the resource limitations of both sides. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Kate Wells, crawled up beside him. "Sir, we could end this siege in 6 hours. The Depth Lords have no defense against kinetic bombardment from orbit." "That is not our mission, Lieutenant." "Then what is our mission? We sit here and watch people die while we take notes?" Rick looked at her through his helmet visor. "Our mission is to learn everything about how these species fight, think, and make decisions. That knowledge serves a purpose you do not understand yet." Kate stared at the siege below. What purpose could be worth letting 90,000 civilians die? Rick did not answer. He returned to his observations and continued, writing his report. On Earth, Amy Bell worked through another 18-hour shift in the analysis center. Her office was filled with computer screens, showing data from human observers across the galaxy. Each screen displayed information about different alien species and their ongoing conflicts. Screen 1 showed Jake Morrison's battle analysis from Kepler 442. The crystalline hive had developed new tactics using sonic weapons. Their ships now moved in spiral formations that confused enemy targeting systems. Screen 2 displayed Lisa Grant's war report from the Luminar system. The energy beings were becoming more desperate. They had started using kamikaze attacks, turning their own ships into bombs. Screen 3 contained Pete Collins' research on the mediator species. The white ships had appeared in 3 more conflicts, each time stopping the fighting with unknown technology. Amy compiled all the information into a massive database. She cross-referenced battle tactics, technological capabilities, and psychological profiles. Patterns emerged from the chaos. Every species had strengths and weaknesses. Every military force had predictable behaviors. Her assistant, Dr. Ben Adams, entered the office carrying another stack of reports. "Amy, we just received updates from 15 more observation posts. The Helix Nebula conflict is escalating." Amy took the reports and began reading. The crystalline shapers were expanding again, using their 3-phase conquest strategy. First, they would study a target system for weeks. Then they would attack the weakest defenders while avoiding the strongest ones. Finally, they would occupy strategic positions and force the remaining enemies to surrender. "The shapers follow the same pattern every time," Amy said. "They are predictable. Should we warn their current targets?" "No. We observe. We learn. We prepare." Ben looked confused. "Prepare for what?" Amy pointed at her wall of screens. "Look at all this data, Ben. We know how every species fights. We know their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. We know which ones are aggressive and which ones are defensive. We know how they communicate and how they make decisions. So, we are building the most complete military intelligence database in galactic history. When the time comes, we will know how to deal with any threat or opportunity. Ben sat down in a chair. Are we planning to conquer the galaxy? Amy smiled. No, Ben. We are planning to save it. Dr. Ben Adams stood on the observation deck of Research Station Echo 7, watching the Shaper fleet approach the peaceful Harmony Collective's home system. The crystalline ships moved like a school of glassfish through space, their surfaces reflecting starlight in rainbow patterns. Ben had been studying the Shapers for 6 months. He knew their expansion strategy by heart. Phase 1 was reconnaissance. The Shapers would send scout ships to study the Harmony Collective's defenses, technology, and population centers. Phase 2 was selective assault. They would attack the military installations while avoiding civilian areas. Phase 3 was occupation. They would demand surrender and offer to integrate the Harmony Collective into their crystalline hierarchy. The Kino. Harmony Collective was a peaceful species that had never fought a war. Their ships were designed for exploration and trade, not combat. They would be conquered within a week. Ben recorded everything. The Shaper scout ships' scanning patterns, the Harmony Collective's panicked evacuation attempts, the technical specifications of both species' vessels. His database grew larger with each passing hour. His communication device buzzed. Adams, this is Earth Command. Status report. The Shapers are beginning Phase 1 reconnaissance. The Harmony Collective has no effective military response. Conquest probability is 97%. Understood. Continue monitoring. Ben put down the device and resumed his observations. Through his telescope, he watched Harmony Collective families loading their possessions onto evacuation ships. Children pressed their faces against windows, looking back at homes they would never see again. Ben made a note in his report about Harmony Collective family structures and evacuation procedures. Every detail mattered. Every piece of information served the greater purpose. But as he watched the children's faces, Ben wondered what that purpose really was. How many species would suffer while humans sat quietly and took notes? How many civilizations would fall while Earth's observers gathered data? He pushed the thoughts away and continued his work. Somewhere in the analysis center on Earth, Amy, Bell would read his report and add it to humanity's growing understanding of galactic military capabilities. Somewhere in the halls of Earth Command, President Carol Davis and General Roy Martin would use that understanding to make decisions that would affect the entire galaxy. Ben did not know what those decisions would be. He only knew that his job was to watch, learn, and report. The children's faces disappeared as their evacuation ship jumped to hyperspace. Ben recorded the time of departure and estimated their destination. The Shapers moved closer to their next conquest, and humanity's quiet observers continued their patient work. General Vexthal of the Crimson Fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display showing the human observation post. The small station orbited a dead planet, where 2 alien species had been fighting for 3 months. The fungal spore bringers launched their spore pods at the electromagnetic pulse warriors, while the energy beings responded with lightning attacks that turned spores to ash. Through it all, the humans watched and did nothing. 30 ships against 1 small station, General Vexthal said to his tactical officer. The humans will have no choice but to fight or run. What if they run, General? Then we follow them back to their hidden bases. What if they fight? Vexthal smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Then we learn what weapons they really have. The Crimson Fleet had been watching the humans for weeks. Every major conflict in this sector had at least 1 human observer station. The humans claimed to be peaceful researchers, but no species committed this many resources to simple observation. They had to be planning something. Commander Sam Turner received the proximity alarm in his small observation post. 12 human crew members worked at monitoring stations around him, tracking the battle between the spore bringers and pulse warriors below. They had been recording the conflict for 87 days. Commander, we have 30 unknown vessels, approaching fast. reported Technician Lou Parker. Configuration matches Crimson Fleet warships. Sam looked at the tactical screen. The red dots of enemy ships moved steadily toward his position. His station had basic defensive shields and a few point defense guns, but nothing that could stop 30 warships. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Sue Martinez. "Put it on screen." General Vex Thul's face appeared on the main display. The alien warrior had gray skin covered in ritual scars and eyes like burning coals. "Human Station, this is General Vex Thul of the Crimson Fleet. You will answer our questions or be destroyed." Sam remained calm. "This is Commander Sam Turner. We are conducting authorized research in neutral space. Please state your business." "Your business is spying. Why do humans watch every war in this sector? What are you planning?" "We are studying alien conflicts to better understand galactic civilization. We mean no harm to anyone." Vexthul laughed. "No species deploys this many observers without hostile intent. You will reveal your true purpose or we will destroy your station and examine the wreckage." Sam looked at his crew. They waited for his orders, their faces tense but determined. "General, we cannot share classified research data. If you attack a neutral scientific station, you will be violating galactic law." "Galactic law?" Vexthul snarled. "The Crimson Fleet makes its own laws. You have 5 minutes to surrender your data files, or we open fire." The transmission ended. Sam turned to his tactical officer. "Jim, status of defensive systems?" "Chief." Petty Officer Jim Watson checked his displays. "Shields at full power, point defense systems armed. But Commander, we cannot stop 30 warships." "We are not going to stop them, Jim. We are going to disable them." The crew looked confused. How could one small station disable an entire fleet? Sam activated his command console and entered a series of codes. Deep in the station's computer core, programs that had been dormant for months came online. "All stations, prepare for defensive action. Activate Protocol 7. Lou Parker looked up from his sensor station. "Sir, Protocol 7 will reveal our true capabilities. Earth Command authorized Protocol 7 if we were directly threatened. This qualifies." Sam watched the countdown timer on his screen. The Crimson Fleet ships moved into attack formation, their weapons charging for the assault. In 2 minutes, they would be close enough to overwhelm his station's defenses. In 1 minute, they would be close enough for Protocol 7 to work. 30 seconds to weapons range, reported Jim Watson. "All defensive systems ready," added Sue Martinez. "Protocol 7 is active," confirmed Lou Parker. Sam waited. The Crimson Fleet ships closed the final distance, their weapon ports glowing with stored energy. At exactly the moment they entered optimal firing range, Sam pressed a single button. Nothing visible happened. No weapons fired from the human station, no energy beams crossed space. But on 30 Crimson Fleet warships, something went terribly wrong. The lead ship's main engines suddenly shut down. Its weapon systems went offline. Navigation. Computers crashed and rebooted with corrupted data. Communications arrays stopped working. Life support systems switched to emergency backup power. Within 60 seconds, the same malfunctions spread through the entire Crimson Fleet. 30 powerful warships became 30 helpless metal shells drifting in space. General Vexthul stood on his darkened bridge as emergency lighting cast red shadows on the walls. His tactical officer tried desperately to restart their main computer systems. "What happened?" Vexthul demanded. "Unknown, General. All systems failed simultaneously. It is as if someone pressed a shut-off switch for our entire fleet." Vexthul stared at the human station on his emergency display screen. The small outpost continued its quiet orbit, apparently unchanged. No weapons were visible on its hull. No energy signatures suggested powerful defensive systems. His communication system crackled to life with an incoming message from the humans. Sam Turner's calm face appeared on the emergency screen. "General Vexthul, this is Commander Turner. You appear to be experiencing technical difficulties. We are transmitting repair protocols to help restore your systems." "What did you do to my ships?" Vexthul growled. "We defended ourselves, General. Your vessels suffered cascading system failures due to poorly shielded computer networks. The repair data we are sending will fix the problems." Vexthul watched as his tactical officer received the human data transmissions. The repair files were incredibly detailed, containing exact specifications for every system on Crimson Fleet ships. The humans knew more about his technology than his own engineers. "How do you know our system configurations?" Sam smiled slightly. "We have been observing your fleet's operations for several months, General. We study all military forces in this sector as part of our research. The repair protocols worked perfectly, too perfectly. Within an hour, every Crimson Fleet ship was fully operational again. But the implications were terrifying. The humans had not just disabled the fleet, they had demonstrated complete knowledge of Crimson Fleet technology." As his ships prepared to retreat, General Vexthul realized the horrible truth. The humans were not just watching random battles. They were systematically learning how every species in the galaxy fought, what weapons they used, and how to neutralize them. The small human station returned to its quiet observations, as if nothing had happened. Below them, the Sporebringers and Pulse Warriors continued their war, unaware that the humans had just revealed their true nature to one very frightened Crimson Fleet general. Sam Turner filed his incident report with Earth Command. "Crimson Fleet, test was successful. Protocol 7 worked exactly as designed. Recommend expanding electronic warfare capabilities to all observation posts." General Roy Martin read the report in his office on Earth. The test had proven that humanity's 3 years of intelligence gathering could be turned into effective defensive weapons. Every alien computer system, every piece of military technology, every electronic device that humans had studied could be controlled or disabled at will. "Send a message to all observation posts," he told his aide. "Inform them that defensive protocols are now authorized for use against direct threats. But maintain the cover story. We are still just peaceful researchers." His aide saluted and left the office. General Martin looked at the star map on his wall, showing the locations of human observers throughout the galaxy. Each red dot represented years of careful study and intelligence gathering. Each position gave humanity the ability to influence events across dozens of star systems. The galaxy still saw humans as mysterious but harmless watchers. They had no idea that those quiet observers now possessed the capability to shut down any military force that threatened them. But more importantly, they had no idea what humanity was really preparing for. In the Crimson Fleet's home territory, General Vexthul called an emergency meeting of the fleet commanders. The other generals listened in shocked silence as he described the human station's impossible capabilities. "They knew everything about our ships," he concluded. "Every system, every weakness, every technical specification. They could have destroyed us completely, but instead they just disabled us and offered to help with repairs." "What do you think they want?" asked Admiral Krextar. "I do not know. But I know what they are capable of. The humans are not peaceful observers. They are the most dangerous intelligence operation in galactic history." The news of the Crimson Fleet incident spread quickly through military channels. Species that had dismissed humans as harmless began to reconsider. If the humans could disable an entire battle fleet without firing a shot, what else could they do? But on distant observation posts throughout the galaxy, human crews continued their quiet work. They watched wars, recorded data, and sent reports back to Earth. To outside observers, nothing had changed. Only now, everyone wondered what the humans were really planning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened just 3 days after news of the Crimson Fleet incident reached the core worlds. Representatives from 47 species filled the massive chamber, their voices creating a mixture of clicks, hisses, and electronic tones as they argued among themselves. Admiral Kethvar stood at the center podium, his reptilian features darker than usual. "The humans have revealed military capabilities far beyond what they previously showed us. General Vexthul's entire fleet was disabled in seconds." Counselor Zixandra's tentacles writhed with agitation. 30 warships neutralized without visible weapons. This cannot be simple defensive technology. The humans claim they only defended themselves, added Speaker Morden of the Silicon Collective. But defense systems that advanced suggest offensive capabilities we have not yet seen. The chamber erupted in heated discussions. Some species demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others argued for diplomatic solutions. A few suggested forming an alliance with Earth before the humans became hostile. Admiral Kethvar raised his clawed hand for silence. I have contacted Earth and demanded answers. Secretary of Defense Dan Clark has agreed to appear before this council, in person. Murmurs of surprise filled the chamber. No human official had ever visited the Galactic Council headquarters. Most species had only seen humans through hologram transmissions. When will he arrive? Asked Chancellor Vexprin of the Cloud Dancers. His ship should dock within the hour. The massive cargo bay doors of the council station opened to receive the human vessel. The ship that entered was unlike anything the aliens had expected. Most military vessels were designed to intimidate, with aggressive angles and visible weapon systems. The human ship looked more like a mobile research laboratory. The hull was covered with sensor arrays, communication dishes, and scanning equipment. Instead of gun turrets, the ship mounted telescopes and signal interceptors. The vessel moved, with quiet efficiency, its engines producing minimal energy signatures. Dan Clark stepped off the ship wearing a simple gray uniform with no medals or decorations. He was a tall man with graying hair and calm blue eyes. Two aides accompanied him, carrying briefcases and tablet computers. The alien welcoming committee had expected a military parade or show of force. Instead, they met three humans who looked like university professors. In the council chamber, Dan Clark stood at the central podium facing rows of alien representatives. Some were twice his size, others had multiple heads or arms, and a few existed as pure energy contained in mechanical bodies. Despite being outnumbered by dozens of potentially hostile species, Dan appeared completely relaxed. Admiral Kethvar spoke first. Secretary Clark, your species has been observing our conflicts for 3 years. The recent incident with the Crimson Fleet proves you possess advanced military technology. We demand to know your intentions. Dan nodded politely. Admiral, our intentions have not changed since our first contact with this council. We are here to learn about galactic civilization and find ways to contribute positively to it. Contribute how? Demanded Counselor Zixandra. By spying on our military forces? By understanding them, Dan replied. Every species represented in this chamber has unique strengths, technologies, and cultural approaches to conflict resolution. Rather than making assumptions or choosing sides based on limited information, we chose to observe and learn. Chancellor Vexaprin leaned forward. Learn for what purpose, Secretary? No species deploys hundreds of observation posts without strategic goals. Dan reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. Perhaps it would be easier to show you what we have learned, and why we learned it. He activated a holographic projector that displayed a three-dimensional map of the local galactic region. Colored dots marked the locations of ongoing conflicts, with detailed information scrolling beside each one. The Kepler 442 system, Dan began, pointing to a red dot. 3 species fighting over mining rights to rare crystals. The conflict has lasted 43 days and claimed approximately 12,000 lives. Our analysis shows that all 3 species could achieve their economic goals through cooperative mining operations, but cultural misunderstandings prevent negotiation. He moved to another dot. The Luminar Swarm War. 6 months of fighting based on territorial disputes that could be resolved by recognizing each species' preferred environment types. The Luminar need energy-rich systems, while the Swarm requires planets with specific atmospheric compositions. There is no real resource conflict. You have been analyzing our wars, Admiral Kethvar asked suspiciously. We have been analyzing the root causes of galactic conflicts, Dan corrected. In most cases, species fight because they do not understand each other's actual needs or motivations. The hologram shifted to show detailed reports on 17 different conflicts. Each analysis included the participating species, their military capabilities, their cultural backgrounds, and potential paths to peaceful resolution. This is intelligence gathering on a massive scale, accused Speaker Morden. You have cataloged our military strengths and weaknesses. Dan did not deny it. Yes, we have, but not for the reasons you suspect. He touched the projector controls, and the display changed to show technical specifications for weapons, ships, and defensive systems from dozens of species. The level of detail was frightening. The humans knew exactly how every major military force in the region operated. 3 years of observation have given us comprehensive knowledge of galactic military capabilities, Dan continued. We know how the crystalline hive coordinates their swarm tactics. We understand the Nexus Collective's targeting algorithms. We have mapped the Verdant Alliance's biological ship regeneration systems. The alien representatives exchanged worried glances. Some reached for communication devices to alert their home governments. But we also know something else, Dan said, his voice growing more serious. We know that most of these conflicts are unnecessary. We know that most of these wars could be prevented with better communication and understanding between species. Counselor, Zixandra's tentacles stopped writhing. Are you threatening us? No, Counselor, we are offering to help. Dan activated another hologram showing a different kind of data. Instead of military specifications, this display contained cultural analyses, communication protocols, and diplomatic strategies for each species. Our observers have not just been studying how you fight, he explained. They have been studying how you think, how you communicate, and what you actually need to survive and prosper. We believe that most galactic conflicts could be resolved through mediation by parties who understand all sides involved. Admiral Kethvar stood up from his seat. You expect us to believe that you gathered military intelligence on every species in this region just to become mediators? Not just mediators, Admiral. Protectors. The chamber fell silent. Dan's words carried implications that no one had expected. Protectors against what? Whispered Chancellor Vexprin. Dan's expression became grim. Our long-range sensors have detected something approaching from outside the galaxy. Something that does not communicate, does not negotiate, and does not show mercy. We estimate it will arrive in this region within 18 months. He touched the projector again, and the display showed massive bioships unlike anything the Council had ever seen. The vessels were enormous, their hulls covered in what looked like living tissue. We call them the Devourer Swarm. They consume entire star systems, converting all matter into more ships and more weapons. They have already destroyed civilizations in the outer rim of this galaxy. The alien representatives stared at the images in shock. Some species had received reports of colonies going silent in distant sectors, but no one had imagined a threat of this scale. You knew about this for 3 years? Admiral Kethvar asked. We detected the first signs of their approach shortly after we began our observation program. Everything we have done since then has been preparation for their arrival. Dan closed the projector and looked around the chamber. We studied your military capabilities not to conquer you, but to learn how to coordinate your defenses. We analyzed your conflicts not to exploit them, but to understand how to unite you against a common enemy. Counselor Zixandra spoke in a quiet voice. How do we know you are telling the truth about this threat? Because in 18 months you will see, for yourselves. The Devourers will arrive whether you believe in them or not. The question is whether the galaxy will face them as dozens of separate quarreling species, or as a united defense force that knows how to work together. Dan picked up his briefcase and prepared to leave. Our offer stands, representatives. Humanity will share everything we have learned about military coordination and species cooperation. We will help you prepare for what is coming, but we cannot force you to accept our help. He walked toward the exit, then paused and turned back. To the Council. One more thing. The Crimson Fleet incident was not just a demonstration of our defensive capabilities. It was a proof of concept. We now know that our understanding of your technologies is accurate enough to coordinate them in battle. When the Devourers arrive, we will be ready to help you fight them effectively. And if we refuse your help? Asked Admiral Kethvar. The alert signal screamed across every inhabited world in the galaxy. Long-range sensors detected massive objects entering the outer systems, moving faster than any known technology could travel. The Devourer Swarm had arrived 6 months ahead of schedule. Admiral Kethvar stood in the Emergency Command Center on Zephyria Prime, watching the tactical displays with growing horror. The bioships were enormous, some larger than small moons. They moved through space like living creatures, their hulls pulsing with organic rhythms. "How many ships?" he asked his tactical officer. "Computer estimates over 10,000 vessels, Admiral. They are consuming everything in the outer ring systems. Planets, asteroids, even stars are being harvested." The first reports came from the mining colonies in the Tau Ceti region. The Devourer ships had surrounded 3 inhabited worlds and begun the feeding process. Giant tendrils extended from the bioships, drilling into planetary surfaces and extracting all organic and metallic materials. Within hours, thriving worlds became empty husks of rock. "Send the emergency signal to all member species," Admiral Kethvar ordered. "Full mobilization. Every available warship to defensive positions." But even as the orders went out, everyone knew the truth. The combined fleets of the Galactic Council had never faced an enemy this large or this alien. Their weapons and tactics were designed for fighting other species with similar technology. The Devourers followed no known rules of warfare. President Carol Davis received the emergency transmission in her office on Earth. General Roy Martin burst through the door carrying urgent reports from observation posts throughout the galaxy. "Madam President, the Devourers are here. Our deep space monitors confirm massive bioships in 17 systems. They are moving faster than we predicted." Carol looked at the tactical projections on her wall display. Red dots marked Devourer positions as they swept through the outer regions of the galaxy like a plague. Each red dot represented the death of entire civilizations. How long until they reach the core worlds? At current speed, 8 weeks. But they are accelerating as they consume more resources. Carol activated her communication system. "Get me a direct line to the Galactic Council. Priority Alpha." The hologram projector connected her to the chaos of the Council emergency session. Alien voices filled the channel, all speaking at once in panic and desperation. "This is President Davis," Carol said, her voice cutting through the noise. "We are ready to implement the defense plan." Admiral Kethvar's reptilian face appeared on the main screen. "President Davis, our combined fleets cannot stop this invasion. The Devourers adapt to our weapons too quickly." "We know, Admiral. That is why we prepared a different approach." Carol turned to General Martin. "Give the order. Activate all observation posts. Begin coordination protocol." Across the galaxy, human observation stations that had remained hidden for 3 years suddenly came alive with activity. Captain Jake Morrison received his new orders while still monitoring the Kepler 442 system. The three-way war between the Crystalline Hive, Nexus Collective, and Verdant Alliance had continued for months, but now everything changed. "All ships in the Kepler system. This is Captain Morrison of the Human Coordination Network. We have confirmed intelligence that Devourer bioships will reach your position in 4 days. I am transmitting tactical data for unified defense." The Ayu, alien commanders, had been fighting each other for so long that cooperation seemed impossible. But Jake's transmission contained something that changed their minds. Complete technical specifications for Devourer bioships, detailed analysis of their weaknesses, and a precise battle plan that used each species' unique capabilities. "Crystalline Hive Fleet, your sonic weapons can disrupt Devourer neural networks, but only at specific frequencies. Nexus Collective, your targeting computers can track their adaptive armor, but you need Verdant Alliance biosensors for accurate locks. Verdant Alliance, your regenerating ships can survive their acid attacks, but you need Crystalline and Nexus covering fire." For the first time in months, the 3 fleets stopped shooting at each other and started listening. Commander Rick Stone faced a similar situation at Altair Prime, where the Depth Lords and Stone clans had been locked in their siege for 8 months. The Devourer scouts were already probing the system's outer defenses. "This is Commander Stone to all military forces in the Altair system. The siege is over. We have bigger problems." Rick's transmission included complete battle plans that required both species to work together. The Depth Lords' water-based weapons could flood Devourer bioships and disable their organic systems. The Stone clan's underground tunnels could provide perfect ambush positions for coordinated strikes. "Depth Lord Admiral, Your aquatic forces can operate in vacuum if you modify your pressure suits with Stone Clan crystal filters. Stone Clan General, your rock-boring explosives can penetrate Devourer hulls if you use Depth Lord liquid accelerants. Within hours, species that had been killing each other were sharing technology and coordinating battle strategies. Captain Nina Ross coordinated the defense of the Xerion system, where 7 different species had been involved in a complex territorial dispute. Her human observation post became the central command center for the largest multi-species fleet ever assembled. All commanders, this is Captain Ross. I am uploading tactical packages designed specifically for your combined capabilities. The battle plans were incredibly detailed. Nina's team had studied each species for years, learning exactly how their weapons, ships, and tactics functioned. Now that knowledge became the foundation for unprecedented military cooperation. Saurid Empire Fleet, your heat-based weapons are most effective against Devourer cooling nodes located here, here, and here. Silicon Collective, your crystalline hulls can withstand their bioacid, making you perfect for close-range combat. Cloud Dancers, your atmospheric manipulation can create pressure barriers that disrupt their feeding tendrils. Commander Tony Price led the defense of the core worlds, where the most powerful species maintained their capital fleets. The Metallic Hierarchs, Rootkin Collective, and Pulse Warriors had never fought together, but Tony's coordination made it possible. Metallic Hierarchs, your electromagnetic shields can protect organic ships from Devourer neural attacks. Rootkin Collective, your root networks can coordinate fleet movements faster than traditional communications. Pulse Warriors, your energy weapons can overload Devourer adaptive systems if you cycle frequencies every 2.3 seconds. The human coordinators worked around the clock, turning chaotic battles into precise military operations. Species that had been enemies for centuries found themselves fighting side by side against the common threat. But the Devourers were not helpless. Their bioships learned from each encounter, adapting their tactics and defenses. What worked in one battle might fail in the next. The human coordinators had to constantly update their strategies as the enemy evolved. Dr. Pete Collins found himself commanding a desperate defense in the Vega system, where his research station became the nerve center for 12 different species. The Devourers had learned to jam traditional communications, but Pete's team had prepared for this. All units switched to quantum-entangled communication channels. Frequency pattern Delta 7 Alpha. Devourer ships cannot intercept or block these signals. The human observation network revealed its true purpose. Every monitoring station, every research post, every seemingly peaceful outpost was actually a coordination node in a galaxy-spanning command and control system. Humanity had not just been watching alien wars, they had been building the infrastructure needed to unite those aliens against a common enemy. Amy Bell worked frantically in the Earth Analysis Center, processing battle reports from hundreds of engagements and updating tactical recommendations in real time. Her database of alien military capabilities became the foundation for coordinating species that had never worked together. Update to all coordinators, she transmitted. Devourer bioships show weakness to combined sonic and electromagnetic attacks. Recommend pairing crystalline hive and silicon collective units. Also, their feeding tendrils cannot function in temperatures below -40 degrees. Ice world species should be prioritized for defensive operations. The galaxy-wide battle raged for weeks. Some systems fell to the Devourers despite coordinated defenses. Others held firm through impossible odds. But slowly, the tide began to turn. The alien species were learning to fight together, and the Devourers found it harder to adapt to the constantly changing multi-species tactics. President Carol Davis monitored the global situation from Earth Command. The red dots marking Devourer positions had stopped advancing. In some sectors, they were actually retreating. General Martin status report. Madam President, the coordinated defense is working. Devourer advance has slowed by 70%. Combined fleet losses are at acceptable levels. Carol looked at the tactical display showing hundreds of human coordinators managing the defense of thousands of star systems. 3 years of patient observation had given humanity the knowledge needed to unite the galaxy against extinction. How long until we can begin counterattacks? If current trends continue, We should be ready to launch offensive operations within 6 weeks. The last Devourer bioship exploded in a flash of organic fire above the ruins of Kepler Prime. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his coordination station as the combined fleets of 3 former enemy species finished mopping up the remaining invaders. The battle had lasted 4 months, but the galaxy had survived. The cost was enormous. 12 star systems had been completely consumed before the coordinated defense could stop the Devourer advance. Billions of lives were lost, and entire civilizations had been wiped from existence. But without human coordination, the death toll would have been much worse. Jake activated his communication system to contact the fleet commanders. All units, this is Captain Morrison. Threat assessment shows no remaining Devourer presence in this sector. Well done, everyone. The response came from Admiral Zektar of the Crystalline Hive. Captain Morrison, your coordination made victory possible. Without human tactical guidance, we would have lost this system. Commander Vexnil of the Nexus Collective added, our species fought each other for months before the invasion. Your people taught us to fight together instead. Jake smiled as he prepared his final battle report. The 3 fleets were already discussing joint patrol schedules and shared defense agreements. Former enemies had become allies through the crucible of common struggle. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session to address the new reality. The Great Chamber was quieter than usual, filled with representatives who had watched their civilizations come within days of extinction. Admiral Kethvar stood at the central podium, his reptilian features showing exhaustion and relief. The Devourer threat has been eliminated from our region of the galaxy. Preliminary reports indicate that coordinated defense operations saved approximately 3 billion lives. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. Even the most aggressive species had to admit that human coordination had been essential to their survival. The question before us now, Admiral Kethvar continued, is what role humanity will play in galactic affairs going forward. Dr. Kate Phillips entered the chamber as Earth's representative. She was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and kind eyes, wearing the simple uniform of the Human Diplomatic Corps. Unlike the military officials who had spoken for Earth during the crisis, Dr. Phillips represented humanity's peacetime goals. Representatives of the Galactic Council, she began, humanity appreciates your gratitude for our role in the recent defense operations. But we do not seek to become your rulers or your military commanders. Counselor Zixandra's tentacles writhed with confusion. Dr. Phillips, your species demonstrated capabilities that saved our civilizations. Surely you will claim leadership of the galactic community. No, Counselor, that is not our way. Dr. Phillips activated a holographic projector showing a map of the galaxy with hundreds of marked locations. For 3 years, we observed your conflicts and learned about your cultures. What we discovered is that most wars begin with misunderstanding and escalate due to poor communication. She touched the projector controls, and the display changed to show detailed analyses of the conflicts that had been resolved during the Devourer crisis. Species that had fought for decades were now working together peacefully. The emergency forced rapid cooperation between your species, but we believe this cooperation can continue during peacetime through proper mediation and communication. Speaker Morden of the Silicon Collective leaned forward. What are you proposing, Dr. Phillips? We propose the establishment of permanent human mediation stations throughout the galaxy, not as military bases or centers of power, but as neutral locations where disputes can be resolved through understanding rather than warfare. The chamber buzzed with discussions. Some species saw the value in human mediation, while others worried about human influence over their affairs. Chancellor Vexaprin of the Cloud Dancers spoke up. How would these mediation stations operate? Each station would be staffed by humans, trained in conflict resolution and cross-species communication. When disputes arise between species, our mediators would help all parties understand each other's actual needs and find mutually beneficial solutions. Dr. Phillips paused to let the implications sink in. We have learned that most galactic conflicts are not really about resources or territory. They are about fear, misunderstanding, and failure to communicate effectively. Admiral Kethvar stood up. And if conflicts escalate to violence despite mediation efforts, then we would coordinate defensive operations to protect innocent lives, just as we did during the Devourer crisis. Our knowledge of galactic military capabilities would ensure that defensive actions are swift and precise. The debate continued for hours. Some species embraced the idea of human mediation, while others preferred traditional methods of resolving disputes, but gradually, a consensus emerged. The galaxy had seen what happened when species worked together, and most wanted to continue that cooperation. 3 months later, Commander Alan Fox arrived at his new assignment in the former Kepler 442 war zone. The human mediation station was built on a small asteroid between the territories of the Crystalline Hive, Nexus Collective, and Verdant Alliance. The station looked nothing like a military base. Instead of weapons and armor, it featured conference rooms, cultural exchange centers, and communication facilities. The design emphasized openness and accessibility, rather than defense or intimidation. Alan's first case involved a mining rights dispute between the Crystalline Hive and Nexus Collective. Both species claimed exclusive rights to an asteroid field, rich in rare crystals needed for their technologies. The crystals you seek have different properties, Alan explained during the mediation session. Hive crystals grow in organic matrices, while collective crystals form in metallic environments. The asteroid field contains both types in separate regions. Within 2 days, he had helped both species negotiate a shared mining agreement. The Crystalline Hive would extract organic crystals from one section of the field, while the Nexus Collective mined metallic crystals from another section. Both species got what they needed without conflict. Similar success stories emerged from human mediation stations across the galaxy. The Depth Lords and Stone clans signed a permanent peace treaty after learning that their resource needs did not actually overlap. The Saurid Empire and Rootkin Collective established trade agreements that benefited both species. Dr. Pete Collins found himself running the largest mediation station in the sector, handling disputes between 7 different species in the former Vega conflict zone. His office processed dozens of cases each month, from territorial boundaries to trade regulations. The key is understanding what each species actually needs, he explained to his staff during a training session. Most conflicts are based on assumptions about other species' intentions. Once we help them communicate clearly, peaceful solutions become obvious. Amy Bell transitioned from military analysis to diplomatic intelligence, using her vast database of species information to help mediators understand cultural nuances and communication patterns. Her work became the foundation for training programs that taught humans how to facilitate interspecies dialogue. President Carol Davis reviewed the quarterly reports from all mediation stations during a cabinet meeting on Earth. The results were encouraging. Galactic conflicts had decreased by 80% since the mediation network was established. "What about military preparedness?" asked General Martin. "The Devourers might return. Our mediation stations maintain full communication and coordination capabilities," Carol replied. "If another external threat appears, we can activate defensive protocols within hours." She looked at the star map on her office wall, now showing green dots for mediation stations instead of red dots for observation posts. "But our primary mission is preventing conflicts, not winning them." Commander Nina Ross supervised the construction of a new mediation station in the former war zone near Zerion. 7 species that had once fought bitterly over territorial claims were now working together to build a shared research facility. "Amazing how things change," commented her construction supervisor, Lieutenant Tom Hayes. 6 months ago, these species were trying to kill each other." "They were fighting because they thought they had to," Nina replied. "Once they learned they could share resources and territories, the fighting stopped." She watched as Saurid engineers worked alongside Cloud Dancer technicians, installing equipment designed by Silicon Collective scientists. The cooperation was genuine, born from mutual understanding rather than military necessity. 5 years after the Devourer invasion, Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of his mediation station, watching ships from a dozen different species dock at the newly constructed Cultural Exchange Center. The facility hosted regular conferences where species could share technology, art, and scientific discoveries. His communication device buzzed with an incoming message from a young diplomat. Captain Morrison, we have a new situation developing. In the Centauri sector, 2 species are disputing mining rights again. Jake smiled. Same pattern as always, I assume? Each side thinks the other wants to take everything? Exactly, sir. Should I begin standard mediation protocols? Yes, but remember what we learned from the Vega case. Check whether they actually need the same resources or just think they do.